Hello there, I'm Bonnibert, and on this channel, I reviewed every episode of The Mandalorian Season 3 each week. And those of you who kept up with the series may have seen that I didn't do a review for the last 3 episodes. And that's because I wanted to save it for this video. This is my review for The Mandalorian Season 3. Now, Star Wars has a big place in my heart because it's kind of what started this channel. I originally did a review of all the movies, besides the sequels, so I figured I'd review their newest show, or newest season. So let's get into it. Just a quick little thing here, there will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't watched the full season yet, you have been warned. I will give my final score at the end of the video, so you might want to skip to the end. Before I really get into it, I'm trying to answer one question in this video. Is the season of The Mandalorian mid? I'll give you the answer at the end of the video. Now, this season didn't really need to be made. I believe that Season 2 left it off perfectly. The whole point of Season 2 was to get Grogu back to his kind. And they did that at the end of the season. The goodbye was really sad, and it just felt like a great ending for this series. 2 seasons may not be much, but it was a pretty good ending, and they should have ended it there. But then they made the book Boba Fett, and then Grogu was back with Din. I found this to be really stupid. First of all, they had Grogu and Din reunite in a show that isn't theirs. And I personally think this show did not have to be made. It was stupid, and the only good episodes were the one with Din, even though they really shouldn't have been there. I just feel like they made this season for more Grogu merchandise. I mean, knowing Disney, that's probably what they do. They couldn't get rid of him, so they had to make another season. In my opinion, they should have done like a spin-off show where Grogu was training with Luke. And then we fast forward and see that Grogu's older and become a Master Jedi. Or something like that, I'm not a story writer. But that's just what I think. Another problem I have with this season is that it feels more about Bo-Katan than it does about Din. Din gets a lot of spotlight at the beginning of the season, then he kind of gets shifted towards the side in the middle of the season. And they give Bo-Katan a lot of attention, which isn't horrible, I guess. I mean, she is the Princess of Mandalore or something. I don't know. I didn't watch Rebels or Clone Wars. But come on, Din was the main character we got to love for 2 seasons, and now he's just shifted to the side, and he doesn't really feel like the main character anymore. I actually kind of thought he would be the one ruling Mandalore at the end of the season, but yeah. Now, let's talk about some things that I did like, because there are a couple of them. I really like the scenes where Grogu and Mando had like these little lesson moments. They were pretty cute, and I really enjoyed them. And the score in this season was just absolutely amazing. It was great in almost every episode, besides one that I'll get to in a little bit. And it's just great in every other season too. But Star Wars music is always pretty much great. This season actually had some pretty good action sequences. The ones that stuck out the most were the ones in episode 7 and 8. But throughout the season, the battles were amazing. They never really slowed down, and I was always excited for them. Next up, let's talk about the celebrity cameos. They were really stupid. What I like about the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian is that they didn't really have to use celebrity cameos to make it a good show. I mean, I'm not saying the celebrity cameos in this season made it good. But yeah, the first 2 seasons really relied on good writing and good storytelling. This season was just cameo after cameo. Episode 6 in particular. This is the part of the video where I review each Mandalorian episode that I did not review in a short. Starting with episode 6. If I had to describe this episode in 2 words, it would be stupid filler. It was not fun, it wasn't cool, it just felt like a stupid mystery that was obvious. My biggest problem is that it's 3 episodes away from the finale, and they're wasting this time with some celebrity-filled filler? That's not okay. And this was the episode where the music didn't really stick out to me in any way. This episode could have been used for so much more. It could have been used to set up Moff Gideon's plan a little better, because it's kind of just like shoved into the next episode. Because that's a little problem I had with episode 7. They kind of just put Moff Gideon at the beginning, even though they could have done that in the previous episode, which would give us more Mandalorian fun time in episode 7. Speaking of episode 7, let's talk about it. This episode was pretty good. The action was pretty fun. The reveal of surviving Mandalorians on Mandalore was pretty cool. And I really like the twist that Moff Gideon's been hiding out on Mandalore. At least I think it's a twist. And he has his own Mandalorian army. The only problem I had with this episode was the dialogue, really. I mean, that's a big problem with the rest of the season. Dialogue was pretty cringy at some parts. Especially when Moff Gideon said, "The best part about this armor is that it has me in it." I thought that was pretty stupid. Episode 7 wasn't bad, and wasn't amazing either. I liked it, and it got me pretty excited for the season finale. And last but certainly not least, we got episode 8. This was a pretty good finale for the season. We got to see the Mandalorians retaking Mandalore, fun, fast-paced action throughout, and Grogu actually got a kind of decent action scene, which I really wasn't expecting. But yeah, this episode ended with Mando kind of like resting out for a little bit, and now he's just chilling, fighting off the rest of the Imperial people in the Outer Rim or something. I guess it's a pretty good finale. I don't really have any deep thoughts about it. I just liked it. Now we're getting into another big problem. Episode 3. This episode was really bad. I know I did a review of it, but let's just talk about it again. This episode just had a predictable plot twist, and we just focused on this boring scientist dude. My biggest problem is that they don't really revisit this later in the season, which I found to be really stupid. I mean, the scientist dude doesn't even make an appearance later in the season. Just the lady that betrayed him does. But they kind of just wasted our time with this episode, and I really didn't like it. Here's another problem I have with this season. The quality of episodes are inconsistent. You go from a pretty good first and second episode to a pretty bad third one. Then you go from an alright filler episode to an episode full of action and pretty important plot points. And then you got the last 3 episodes, which are just a whole mess of quality. I really don't know what happened here. Since I don't want this video to be too long, I'm going to get this next section over with pretty quickly. I'm going to be ranking the whole season worst to best. Episode 6 is easily the worst. Boring filler in later in the season that didn't have to be there. Full of celebrity cameos. Next we have episode 3. Really boring and predictable at points, and it didn't really have to be part of this season. Although Coruscant was pretty cool to see again. Next up, we got episode 4. Wasn't horrible, kind of just filler in the middle of the season. I mean, we usually have those in The Mandalorian, but seeing Order 66 was pretty cool. Next up, we got episode 1. Pretty good setup for the rest of the season. It's just a little too short. Nothing bad about it, just not as good as the rest. At number 4, we have episode 5. Pretty good action scenes, and pretty good setup for the rest of the season. And I thought this pirate captain looked pretty cool. Next up, we have episode 2. The best part about this episode was the set pieces. Honestly, that's one of the best parts of the season. I should have mentioned it earlier, but the set pieces are just beautiful in every episode. This was a hard placement, but episode 8 is at the number 2 spot. Don't get me wrong, this episode is pretty great, but my only problem with it is that it's a little too short for a season finale. I mean, it sort of just jumps into the action, which isn't bad. But, you know, it had me on the edge of my seat the whole episode. I thought Din or Grogu was going to die for some reason. But it was a pretty good season finale. And at the number 1 spot, we have episode 7. This episode was great. Action was great. Music was great. And the set pieces were amazing. It was great seeing Giancarlo Esposito back on screen. And it had a really good cliffhanger at the end. It had me asking, what's going to happen to Din or Grogu? And are they going to be able to stop Moff Gideon? It was a great way of setting up the finale. Here are my overall thoughts. This season didn't need to be made. Was it fun? Yeah, sure. Did I talk about a lot more negatives and positive? Absolutely. And yeah, there are some positives that I forgot to mention. But I say the negatives and positives are pretty balanced. Overall, this season wasn't too great. It wasn't horrible either. I'd just say it was good. And that's not me saying it's amazing, because it's absolutely not. And that's why I'm giving it a big old 6.9 out of 10. Just right above mid. So there's the answer to the question. No, it's not mid. It's just good. Just please don't make a 4th seat. thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm almost to 500 subscribers, and it would be nice to hit 1,000 by the end of the year. Well, that's all I have to say, and that's a cut.